Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Chevalier. My name is Sebastian, and here we are trying to build happy and loving relationships for everyone, whether you're black, white, Asian, European, Japanese, Chinese. I guess that's Asian, but the gist is that in today's times where relationships and dating has become such a somewhat of a bad thing to want love, to want someone to mutually benefit in a happy and loving relationship. I would hope to be that guy to start the conversation that would bring men and women together to at least have a discussion. So, with that said, thank you to another episode in addition to Chevalier. And let's get to today's topic, which is basically fighting through the rough times in a relationship, making it through the rough times in a marriage, making it through the difficult times when you're just dating. I think one thing that I hear very often is a lot of people say, "Oh, well, when I met John, he was really nice. And then as I got to get to know him, he started playing all these games and started being all difficult." And one thing I often tell women is that I don't think that John changed. I just think you didn't really get to know him. I mean, we want to assume that when we meet someone the first time we see them, that we know who they are, that we have a good idea the type of person they are. But if you think about it with logic, we never really know who anyone is until we take the time to get to know them, which is difficult these days because most people don't take the time to pick up the phone and call anyway. Or the only time you hear from somebody is when they want something. So you don't really get that gist of, hey, can we get together for, a drink or two just to have some conversation? Or, when it's colder, can we meet for a cup of coffee to get to know each other? Or, can we spend the weekend together at the park, just having a good time, just so we can kind of build and bond together? I mean, because I think at the same time, you hear people say, oh, well, it takes time to get to know someone. But at the same time, it's like, I got so much going on that I really don't have time to spend with you. So it's kind of like that paradox where you want to make time for me, you want to get to know me, but then you're so busy that you don't have the time. And then we're sort of going back and forth, like missing each other. So I think the grand gist of it all is that we all make time for what's important. And it's hard to make time for a struggling relationship when you don't make the time to make it work. Something often that I always talk about when it comes to making it work is counseling. The opportunity where you sit down and take the time to talk to each other. Everything can't be said in a text message, but it's hard to understand that these days because most people just want to text back and forth, all day, all night, and they don't really want to make an effort to have a valuable conversation to the degree where you feel like you're growing. So it's like, hey, we're having a bad conversation, we had a bad day, and the first thing people will say, well, I'm done with this, block my number, or I'm done with this, I don't want to talk anymore. And it's like, well, why can't we just make the time to just have a conversation and work through this? Working through whatever is possibly holding our relationship back. Working through whatever issue is keeping us from growing closer together. Let's work it out. I mean, it's not always going to be easy, but it's not always going to be difficult. And if you take the time to work through those issues that you kind of feel are holding you back, then when you supersede that situation, it only makes you that much stronger. You kind of feel like you're that much better now that you've gotten past that situation that probably was holding you back because someone probably didn't want to speak or someone was nervous and didn't want to bring it up because they didn't want to cause any friction, not realizing that is that notion of not wanting to talk about that issue that is causing the friction in the first place. So I often tell people, like, if there's an issue in dating and relationships and getting to know someone, then the best way to solve it and get past it is just to put it out front and center so you can know what you're dealing with, so you can slowly build on working to it. sitting down and saying, hey, can we come to a consensus to work through this and find an option that I often tell people that is happy for everyone. The best way to get past the struggling times and the issues that people have is always trying to find that mutually beneficial solution that's going to work for both people involved. Not just a, hey, what makes me happy is what's the best answer. Because unfortunately, too often, it's always a, well, whatever works best for me is a solution. But then you gotta think about, what about the other person sitting on the other side of the table? Because now they feel neglected. Now they feel hurt. Now they feel mistreated. And then you come to a consensus that works for you, but then that other person still feel hurt. And what do they usually do? They usually confide in the opposite sex, family members, friends, people who are going to take their side. And instead of taking the time to work through the situation so that both of you can be happy and everyone can come on top with a solution that works for both people. It might be something where it doesn't work for you perfectly, it doesn't work for me perfectly, but at least we both walk away with something that makes us feel like we've grown closer than just saying, well, one person get what they get, the other person got to get nothing, and somehow this works for everybody. And it really doesn't. Mutually beneficiating in a relationship is the number one key to making it through rough times. Coming up with solutions that benefit the both of us. Coming up with the issue and a solution that makes both people happy, even though we may not both get what we want, it's always going to be key. Because those issues that we didn't agree on, that we did not compromise on, we can always find a way to work it out. That's why I always advocate for therapy. You know, if you're a Christian, seeing your pastor, or sitting down with the rabbi if you're Jewish, or, you know, sitting down with that religious leader with that affiliation that you have, and trying to see if you can sort your way through it. Number one, always being peaceful. Always keeping your tone low. Because once one person starts yelling and the other person starts yelling, then it just ends up basically just becoming a yelling match. And at that point, nobody wins. But most importantly, being respectful. Not calling each other out of names. It could get heated depending on what it is you're arguing about. But as long as you're peaceful, as long as you're respectful, as long as you're not raising your tone or projecting any pejoratives that might cause someone to think that you have bad intentions, then things generally work themselves out. Sometimes it takes some time. Sometimes you have to step away from that significant other and say, hey, you know, like, I just maybe need a day or two away from this person that I love and care about so I can get a chance to assess my mind. I can get a chance to think about how I want to address this. Because sometimes it's those situations where we always want to react quickly. We always want to react right away. And we think that that's the best way to handle things. Well, I'm upset. I got to take care of it now. I got to deal with this right now. But as we learn in life, addressing things on that magnitude where we feel like it's our way or no way can sometimes be the worst way. We sometimes hurt the situation. I feel like I got to jump into it right now. I got to deal with it right now. Instead of saying, you know what? Maybe this is a situation where I need to step back, take a day to reevaluate how it is this needs to be addressed, and hopefully building something that works for the both of us. So to wrap this up, the key thing for dating and relationships, making it through the tough times, is finding solutions that benefit both parties. Find a solution that makes you happy and makes them happy, and make a compromise. Compromise is the cornerstone of any happy, loving, and long-term relationship. So, compromise is the key of this video. Compromise. Thank you so much. See you soon. Happy 4th of July.